about 5,000 bones, exactly as described. Welcome back to Portugal. I'm in the beautiful historic town of Évora in the south-central region of the country known as the Alentejo. Alentejo means beyond the Tagus, a reference to Portugal's best-known river that empties into the Atlantic near Lisbon. I crossed it coming here by bus from Lisbon.
It's a region of rolling hills and plains with wheat fields, olive groves, and the distinctive cork oak tree, an ancient species you might think of the next time you pop the cork on a bottle of wine. Just a few miles from town is the mysterious cromlech of the Almendres, an ancient stone megalith older than Stonehenge.
Near the middle of the Alentejo sits Évora, its most important town with a population of about 60,000. This town is a delightful place. It has all the charming accoutrements of a major historical city, and yet there's a really inviting, intimate ambiance here. Ancient temples, Gothic churches, whitewashed houses, and lots of quiet little plazas and hidden courtyards. It's like walking around in an open-air museum.
My room with private bath at the Avis guest house is comfortable and serene, overlooking a charming neighborhood park. There are only a handful of rooms, and I've had the communal living area and fully equipped kitchen practically to myself.
To really appreciate this town requires knowing a little something about the distinct eras of history here. Arab Moors ruled here from the early 700s until the year 1165. When this part of Portugal came under the jurisdiction of Christian kings. In Évora's case, the major construction after the Reconquest was this cathedral, built in 1166 and expanded more than a century later. It was in this cathedral that the flags of Vasco da Gama's fleet were officially blessed before the famous navigator set sail to the Orient in 1497. The importance of this cathedral tracks with the importance of the town. Although Lisbon may have been the capital, Évora was a favorite place of numerous Portuguese kings who chose to live here at least part-time. Hence Évora's reputation as a royal city. The tower is said to be one of the better places to get an elevated view of the city, which is why I'm climbing up here. Only two other people up here. You don't feel as though you're at a viewpoint at the Grand Canyon. The way it's laid out, you're actually walking on the roof of this cathedral, paved with very old stones, of course. This is Geraldo Square, Évora's new main square. And I say that tongue-in-cheek because it's been so for only the last 6 centuries. It's named in honor of the Portuguese military leader credited with conquering Évora from the Moors in the year 1165. That's the Church of St. Andrew on the north side of the square, also from the 1500s. The Renaissance fountain you see here in the center has been here since 1570. It's 8 jets symbolizing the 8 streets that lead into this plaza. If you haven't already sensed it, Évora's historical richness includes multiple layers. This plaza is an example. The church was built where a palace of an early Portuguese king used to be, and the fountain replaced a Roman arch from ancient times. During the 15th and 16th centuries, this square was ground zero for Évora's Office of the Inquisition. More than 8,000 heretics of the Catholic faith were presented to the Inquisition here, with 445 burned to death, many of them on this square. The most famous execution carried out here was of a powerful duke of the royal house of Braganza, accused of plotting with Spanish clerics to overthrow his brother-in-law, King João. The duke was beheaded with the king among the spectators. This is a delightful place to unwind and sink into a calmer vibe, not to mention a great place to soak up Portuguese culture and history. Speaking of culture, I've just stepped inside the grounds of the University of Évora, founded in 1559.
It's Portugal's second oldest university, and like the city itself, it has a colorful history. Founded by Jesuits, it became a target of oppression under the anti-clerical Marquis of Pombal, who shuttered the university in 1779. But 2 centuries later, in the 1970s, this campus reopened in its original buildings.
As you look around these serene grounds, there's little to suggest its turbulent past. Today it's a state-run institution with about 8,000 students, nearly a quarter of them from foreign countries. Much of this city, which is to say the original part, lies behind impressive walls first built by the Romans after conquering Évora in 57 BC. The walls were expanded and refortified by Visigoths, Arabs, and the early Portuguese rulers over the many years. There's even an aqueduct here, although it's not Roman. It was built by the Portuguese in the 1600s. During the Middle Ages and the Age of Discovery, Évora flourished as a royal residence and intellectual center. The city's architectural legacy from these eras includes grand churches, monasteries, and noble palaces, many of which remain intact. During the 15th and 16th centuries, so many Portuguese kings made their royal residences here that for a time it was considered, at least unofficially, Portugal's capital. The most striking surviving monument from the early Roman era is what you see here. This is a Roman temple smack in the middle of what was once the town's most important square, built in the 1st century to honor Caesar Augustus. After the barbarian takeover of this part of Europe in the 400 CE, this temple was destroyed, left in a heap, with the base and pillars largely intact. The mere fact that the pillars of this once impressive temple still stand is a story in itself. Stones from the temple were used to build a Portuguese royal palace. What was left was walled and roofed and turned into a commercial building. Until the early 1800s, this ancient ruin was a butcher shop, which historians say is probably what saved it from being destroyed completely. Well, I've come to one of the more intriguing sites of Évora, some might even say macabre. This is the so-called Chapel of Bones, part of the convent and church of San Francisco from the 1600s. This place is exactly as it is described. As you can see, the walls and pillars are decorated with the bones of the Catholic faithful, held together with brown cement. There are about 5,000 bones in all here, including the skeletal remains of an adult and a small child that for many years used to hang from the ceiling. They've now been removed and are displayed in a case. The columns, of course, are purely bones, femurs, and other arm and leg bones implanted horizontally in these columns. Each of the 4 columns, corners from floor to ceiling, are anchored by skulls.
This unusual chapel in what was once a friar's dormitory was created by Franciscan monks in the 1600s, in keeping with the church emphasis of the time, intending to convey the transience of life. You sort of get the hint from the message over the doorway that says, "We bones that are here await yours." When the chapel was built, there were some 42 monastic cemeteries in and around Évora that were taking up space in locations people wanted to use for other purposes. The decision was to dig them up and move them here to contribute to, I think, what most people would say is an unusual decorative motif.
Just on the other side of the walls, their playground voices seeping through the windows are children on a church playground, adding just another ironic twist to this rather macabre attraction.
Évora is the kind of place you don't often find in Portugal or anywhere else. A regional town with a royal past. History may have passed it by, but with neither destruction nor decay. It remains that most unusual of creatures, a small urban center largely intact from centuries of past significance. And that, along with not being overrun by tourists, makes it very special.